Today I fucked up by being mind-numbingly dense and missing a once-in-a-lifetime sexy time opportunity. So this happened 6 years ago, but it wasn't until today that I was clued into how badly I fucked up. Still cringing as I write this. It's a bit of a long one, but the cringe is real. I was 21 at the time. I had just started seeing a new girl a couple weeks earlier. Let's call her S. S had turned 19 a few months earlier and was doing the rebellious thing. She had recently done a midnight move out of her parents' place, really liked to party, etc. You know the drill. Anyway, things were going pretty good, and one Friday evening S and a bunch of her friends were at a club. For you Yanks, the legal drinking age is 18 where I am. I got a text from S around 9 PM asking if I wanted to come out for a drink. Early 20s me was not going to pass up that opportunity. Ironic actually, now that I think about it. I met up with S at the club maybe 30 minutes or so later. Honestly, this place is barely passable as a club. It's been shut down, bankrupt, renamed, and reopened a half-dozen times in as many years. But it was only a few blocks from my apartment, so it was my go-to spot. I spot S at a table and it's S and two of her friends. Let's call them the C's. Not the usual friends she hangs with, but more of a friend and a friend of a friend. I had met them a week prior, so we were somewhat acquainted. It was an interesting dynamic. I was a couple years older than everyone else, and being S's new guy with the apartment downtown, I spent the night being the topic of conversation. As it usually did, the conversation eventually shifted to weird sexcapades they each had done. Half true, half bullshit, I'm sure. Fairly typical of this group. So I hadn't thought much of it and was holding my own at dodging any landmines that might derail my chances with S that night. Wise beyond my years, you might say. No, you wouldn't say that once you reach the end. Anyway, eventually the topic of threesomes comes up. One of the girls point blank asks me if I had ever done a threesome. Of course, with S right beside me hanging on every syllable, I'm running the calculus in my head between coming off endearing and vanilla or adventurous and a bit of a player. I opt for the safe and true bet. I say no, I haven't, but might be nice to try one day. That seemed to hit the right note, because before long S is suggesting we hit the road and head back to my place. Being the horny 21-year I was, in a flash I paid the check and all but lined the path back to my apartment with rose petals. As I got up and started to gesture goodbye to the C's, S turned to me and said the C's want to stop by 2 for a couple drinks. Oof. Now you probably have an idea in your mind about what's going to happen, because you're reading this in Today I Fucked Up, and my foreshadowing has the subtlety of an 18-wheeler. But at the time, this didn't come close to registering on my radar. The only thing going through my mind was having to babysit a couple loud tipsy 19-years instead of having some sexcapades of my own with S. But the look S gave me told me no was not a wise answer, which I interpreted to mean she wanted to show off a bit to her friends, so I acquiesced. We made the short journey back to my place and settled in with some drinks. Before long we had done a quick round of Cards Against Humanity and moved back into sharing more wild sex stories that wouldn't have passed as plausible in a B-rate porno, let alone with some white suburbanite 19-year girls. At this point it was getting pretty late, so I was trying to wind down the evening and hopefully entice S to stay the night, but S got the idea to play strip poker. Now this might be where you're telling yourself, okay, this story has jumped the shark, but that's legitimately how it went down, take it or leave it. Of course, the chance to see a bunch of 19-year girls naked was not an opportunity my 21-year self was going to pass on, so I grabbed a deck of cards so fast it must have seemed like I conjured them from thin air. To be honest, the game was a bit of a farce, as it always is with strip poker. It couldn't have been more than 10 minutes before we're all fully naked. Which leads to the awkward part of strip poker. At least in my experience, you don't all just start banging. Where do you go from here? Usually some awkward jokes and you clothe up, maybe you couple up and break off. Started to grab my clothes, and as I do, one of the C's suggests we have another round of drinks. Good transition, but who's going to get up? For those that haven't found themselves in this predicament, when you get up from the table/couch/ etc. after strip poker, you're on full display, so nobody was jumping up. It was a bit of a Mexican standoff. Not being overly shy and the only guy there, I took the initiative, to the sound of cat calls, dog calls, what's the male version, and howling, which I'll be honest, boosted the ego quite a bit. As I'm in the kitchen grabbing the drinks, I hear the chatter die down a bit. It's more of a whisper as far as I can tell, which is weird. I don't really give it a second thought and head back with the drinks. As I'm setting down a couple coolers and beers, one of the C's says she's cold and asks if she can grab a blanket from my room. Before I get a chance to respond, the other C says she is too, and suggests we all go to grab the blankets from the bedroom. Not going to lie, it sounds weird writing it like this, and it sounded weird at the time, but I just rolled with it. S chimed in that it's down the hall as she starts to get up and lead them. At no point, despite the entire night of wild sex stories, talk of threesomes, strip poker, literally bare-ass naked girls sitting in front of me asking to go to my bedroom, did it occur to me that anything sexual was going to happen with the C's. It just did not seem plausible enough to cross my mind. So, me, still trying to figure out how to solve this coldness issue, instead of accepting the obviously thinly veiled excuse to go to my bedroom, suggested we all put our clothes back on to warm up. There was kind of an awkward pause followed by a nah, okay from S in a clearly defensive and rejected tone. You know the tone. And before long everyone was decent again. We quickly finished up our last round of drinks and all agreed it was super late. Both S and the C's split a taxi to go home. At the time I was kicking myself for being awkward and scaring S off, not even realizing what had happened or what they were suggesting. I fell out of touch with S pretty quickly after that. She was in uni and I was working out of town as a surveyor for weeks at a time. Fast forward to today. I had gone the last 6 years not realizing anything else was on the table that night. Today I happened to bump into S and we got to talking. She asked why I turned them down that night and figured it was every guy's fantasy. I asked her what she talking about, still struggling to understand. Turns out, it was a setup from the beginning. S and the C's had planned to have a foursome from the outset. They were all really into me ever since S introduced me to them the week prior to the night and figured it would be a fun time. When I explained to S that I legitimately thought they were feeling cold and didn't realize they wanted to do anything, she was totally dumbfounded. Like, she didn't speak for what seemed like a full minute before she simultaneously started laughing hysterically, snorting, and struggled to gasp in air to laugh harder. On the other hand, I have been dying a slow death ever since. I was probably better off not knowing. Too long didn't read. Despite literally being asked by 3 fully naked girls to take the party to the bedroom because they were cold, I declined the invitation because I thought they were legitimately cold and solved the problem by suggesting we all put our clothes back on. /facepalm. I'm so mad I can't even finish the story past I was escorting 3 women who had been flirting with me all night back to my apartment. Hey, it gets way worse. You'll have to excuse my friend. He's a little slow. The town is back, that /way. Saddest porno script ever. Well, in Italy we have a sort of a motto for this kind of situations: ogni lasciato e persa, all the opportunities you leave on the ground are lost. Rough translation. I don't drink coffee, keeps me up at night. Today I fucked up by making a cancer joke to my 5-year-old. My daughter is 5 and we joke around a lot. Example, she'll call me something like a stinky fart and I'll call her a butt cheek. Today she called me something and I replied yo mama, which cracked me up because for a split second I forgot that I was her mom and had just made fun of myself. Well, that led me to teach her about the yo mama joke. Growing up we would say yo mama, yo daddy, yo bald-headed granny. So we get into it. We're going back and forth. I was just about to lose our little name calling battle, so I decided to bust out the yo bald-headed granny. I wasn't thinking at all. Her grandmother, her dad's mom, has recently finished chemo, so she's still pretty bald. I felt bad once she pointed it out by saying a mommy grandmama is sick, you know that's why her hair is gone. Too long didn't read. I made fun of my mill who is bald from cancer. I feel this. My 7-year-old daughter and I do the same thing where we roast each other like you described. During one of these times I said your mama has stinky farts, obviously referring to her mother who is also my wife. Pretty tame, but funny to a 7-year-old. Her immediate retort was, well daddy, your mama's dead and she'll never fart again. Stunned me for a minute, because my mother died unexpectedly 11 years ago, long before my daughter was born. She obviously has no memory of her, so it was a funny joke to her. My reaction of stunned silence immediately garnered an I'm sorry daddy, did I hurt your feelings? I then burst out laughing because it was the absolute best roast she could have responded with. After we were both done gut laughing at the situation, I had to explain that a joke like that wouldn't be funny to other people, so we should just keep the dead mom jokes between us, haha. Goddamn, that one was freaking brutal. I'm amazed you handled that so well. Butt cheek is a common one in our family. To be fair, your kid mentioning it to you shows you've taught her compassion. Everyone makes mistakes. My nan learned to drive in her 50s and was a super cautious driver. Always slightly below the limit, getting honked at, which only scared her and made her slow down even more. When she died, still in her 50s, fuck cancer, I was in the limo immediately following the hearse with my mum and aunt and uncle. The route to the crematorium was 2 exits down the Westway/A40, which is a busy route in London. Looking back at the hundreds of cars trailing behind us, I observed out loud that even in death she was still holding up the traffic. There was a lot of snorting and snotting and crying. Still makes me smile. R.I.P. Nanny V. Today you learned that your 5-year-old has empathy and is very aware of what happens around her. You might have fucked up with the joke, but be aware that you seem to raise a kid the good way. She sounds amazing. I got stung getting the mail, so I went to warn my new downstairs neighbor about a wasp nest under our mailboxes. She was an older woman living by herself and we hadn't really interacted before, other than my wife and I introducing ourselves on the day she moved in. The woman who answered the door was hardly recognizable as the same who I had met a month or 2 earlier. She had 2 black eyes, a roughly shaved head, and a trembling, unsteady appearance. Hi, I'm Relevant Nostalgia, your upstairs neighbor. I just wanted to warn you about the bees by the mailbox. I got stung. Awkwardly gesturing to the small welt on my arm. Thank you. I wouldn't want any more complications, and then oh, this isn't a fashion choice. Motioning to her head, I have terminal brain cancer. The next sequence probably only took less than a minute, but seemed to last an eternity. After a prolonged silence, I replied, oh, that sucks. And then, while internally screaming at myself to just shut up, but still somehow helpless to stop the words from coming out of my mouth, I continued, at least you have a reason. I'm just going bald, while pointing at my own hairless scalp. I had just compared terminal brain cancer as more favorable than male pattern baldness. Internal screaming no. More awkward silence, and then she mercifully broke it. Well, thanks for the heads up. I'll be careful, and shut the door. Panicked, I ran upstairs and called my wife. I did bad. Telling her of the events, I asked, do you think I should bake her a loaf of bread? Oh, what's done is done. You'll only make things worse. Fortunately, that wasn't my last interaction with the neighbor and we became pretty good friends. Truly miss our afternoon chats, sitting on her porch, talking about life and my then impending fatherhood. She was the first person I told that my wife and I were expecting, back when it was too early to tell anyone. I regret she never got to meet my son. Rest in peace, Susan. Fuck cancer. Today I fucked up by being a shlight terrorist. Technically, it was not today but few months ago. Me, 29M, and my virgin French ass wanted to know what it feels like to be in a vagina. But as an asocial guy who can't date a girl, I decided it was time for me to order a fleshlight. I live with my mom and I didn't want to expose to her my intense sex life, so I did make it deliver in an Amazon locker. So, my fleshlight arrives, I go to the Amazon locker, take it, get in my car quickly to unbox it and hide it in my bag, under my driver license, sunglasses, power bank, but I had to go to the mall after to buy some groceries. Here in France, due to the lot of terrorist attacks, we have something called vigiparate, that means at the entrance of the mall, some guy check if you don't carry any weapon. It is illegal in my country. Okay. I am in the middle of the line, waiting for my weapon checkup. Here is my turn. I am hurry because I need to pee. A large woman asked me to open my bag. I do it and I see my huge brand new closed flashlight. Yes, my stupid mind just forgot it. Can you open your bottle please? Told me the woman. My face turned red and I say okay no, it's just a bottle to keep my water cold. As soon as I said no, she calls another woman. The line of people behind me is getting bigger. The other woman arrives and say, you really don't want to open it sir? Well, it's just cold water. Please. I understand but I have to do my job. You can hide a knife in this bottle. Please, just open it and it's okay, you can go to your groceries. At this point I am thinking about leaving the mall. So I just close my bag, and start to walk to the exit. But the two women didn't want to let me go. One of them just jump on me to get me down. And the other one take my bag, get the bottle out, and open it. All the waiting line is looking at me while the woman watches a nice fake pussy in my bottle and become as red as I am. Me, stuck under the other woman, just wanting to die and see her watching my fleshlight with a horrific face. All the damn people were silent. They let me go, give me my flashlight back, and I bought some groceries with it in my bag, trying to avoid the stares of every people there. I get out, crossed the eyes of the woman near the entrance/exit door, and washed my toy before using it the next night. Too long didn't read. Today I fucked up by being seen as a terrorist by 2 security agents and a lot of waiting people because I had a flashlight in my bag. Edit, OMG thanks everyone for all that hilarious comments. I am glad my terrible story turned into a great time reading all of your messages. I laughed so much, thank you. And thanks for all the awards you gave me. I have been exposed at the mall, now to you, but it worths it XD. Edit 2, for everyone who asks me, yes, a flashlight worths it.